Finance can be messy, but don't worry. We clean things up with facts, fun, and maybe a little sarcasm. Welcome to the Financial Sandbox. Let's get into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for regular, raw, real financial talk in the Sandbox. My guest today is Andy Wang. And Andy has his own podcast. And I have to tell you, I've perused your podcast episodes, and I feel like I've got a lot of work to do because you're pretty awesome, man.
Oh, thanks, Herb. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's been evolving over the last 7+ years. So I just keep trying to iterate and make improvements. I just try to make, the next episode a little bit better than the last, and hopefully and am headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm a year in. So I'm doing the same. Your show is positioned as where money meets purpose in a lot of ways, right? So I'm just going to get into it so that we're going. What's one money belief that you had to unlearn over the last 7 years of doing the show before you could host, credible conversations and feel credible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I think all of us have a little bit of imposter syndrome. When we're doing a podcast and you're supposed to be an expert, and I've been a financial advisor since 1998. So it's been like 25 plus years that I've been working with clients and part of a family business. My registered investment advisory firm, which is fee only, was founded by my father, Sam, in 1993. So I had the luxury of sitting at the dinner table and my dad trying to teach me about how important like a company's balance sheet is and the importance of return on equity. So I had money conversations at home. But even with that, I think that because I didn't get classes in school, there are many gaps in knowing what one should be doing, especially once you're out of school and you're adulting. Nobody gave you a manual saying, hey, this is how you plan for retirement. This is how you, manage your household budget. It's like simple things that should not be complicated. But unfortunately, I've been in this industry long enough that the industry likes to make things complicated. Yeah. And so I think just for me, it's like just getting back to basics. It's doing things as simply as, just spend within your means, know how much you make, know how much you spend, and just doing that, just tracking your expenses, because the word budget can be intimidating. But if you just track where your money's going, and I find that most people know how much they make, a lot of them don't know, how are you spending your money each month? So if you just do a simple exercise of how much goes towards food, how much goes towards shelter, how much goes towards healthcare, and then transportation. Like those are the 4 big ones.
Sure.
That can represent 70% of your monthly expenses. So if you just get a handle on that, you kind of know, okay, I know where most of my money is going. And then if you track for 1 month, you track for a second month, you can't help but say, hey, I think I can make some improvements here. Maybe I should eat out a little bit less. Or maybe I should take a look at subscriptions that I have that I'm not using, right? Maybe there's a streaming service that you haven't watched in a while, and you say, well, let me shut that off. I can plug this leak here. And
tell me those 4 top items again.
Yeah, the top 4 items are going to be your shelter, right? Your housing, your transportation, your healthcare. And now I'm chasing the 4th because you asked me. Food. It's going to be food.
Food. Yeah. Yeah. It's the 4th. Yeah. I just wanted to do that, to bring that up again. So you've been doing this since, you say 98. Is there something you understand completely differently today than you did in your early time as an advisor and earlier in your podcast episodes? Because when you're presenting in a podcast, you're actually instructing publicly. Is there anything that today where you're like, oh gosh, this is how I feel 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think that personal finance, it feels complex, and especially today when it comes to just investing. If you turn on CNBC or Bloomberg, there's so many headlines. You're inundated every day, and
Right.
unfortunately, with the 24-hour news cycle, that's scary as hell.
Right.
They're designed to scare you because that's what gets ratings.
Yes.
And I think that the reality is that there's just so much noise every day. And that has increased, not decreased.
Right. It's interesting. That's one of my, it was a far on question, but I'm just going to ask it now. What's the simple media diet? Because there's people, they're sitting on CNBC, they've got Bloomberg running there, they've got Yahoo Finance on their phone. And we had a client recently where we really had a conversation. They called us about their personal expenses. And in our private meeting, I said, we need to get him to stop doom scrolling.
Yeah, and I think that is more true than ever. Things are so politically divisive, so it depends which news channel you're watching. It gets so complicated. I had the benefit of working with my dad for for a couple decades, and I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, he stepped back from the business, and my brother and I, it's still a family business, are running accounts and working with clients. My dad told me, he's like, you know what? You should really turn the, don't read the headlines, don't watch the news. Are you getting a lot of background noise?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. It's something that I'm hearing. I'll ignore it.
Oh, okay.
So my dad told me, don't look at the headlines during the week. Don't even watch the news during the week. I mean, this is counterintuitive. I actually do watch a lot of the news, especially being the advisor. Clients call me. I need to be up to date on what's happening in the news. So it's important for me to know that, Trump released his nominee for the next Federal Reserve chairman today. I need to know those things. But the average person, you're going to be fine if you don't watch the news during the week.
Right.
On Saturday, go look at the news, see what happened during the week. And then some of the things that were reported during the week have come true. A lot of it has not. Certain things are going to scare you. That's why on Sunday, maybe you pray about it. But, I think for the most part, you can ignore a lot of the noise. And at my firm, we try to look at the numbers. I mean, we track a lot of economic data. We look at corporate earnings to see if corporate earnings are coming through, because numbers can be manipulated, but we can look at numbers more objectively and try to identify trends that give us some insight into, is the economy expanding? Is it contracting? What are the risks? Where are we in the market cycle? And I think that takes us away from a lot of the emotionally charged news headlines. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think headlines optimize for attention, not for decision quality, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to make you make unwise decisions and rash decisions.
Yeah, exactly. So your tagline is basically money isn't complicated, the industry is.
Yeah. Right? I think that's 100% true. Yeah.
Is there an industry habit that keeps smart people stuck, and if they are, how do you snap them out of it? Right. This is also going back to headlines, right? And what they're reading. How do you, in your role, snap them out of it? As opposed to a cartoon image of smacking them, right?
Yeah, I think your question makes me think of two things, and it goes back even to your question about what's something that I learned, over the last couple of decades as a financial advisor. And one of those things is that, there were times where we had a Bloomberg terminal in our office, and the Bloomberg terminal gives you all kinds of data and real-time stock prices. So, throughout the day, we would have, portfolios and client holdings up on the screen, and it's flashing green and red. That would also make you, it would stoke your emotions. You feel like, oh my gosh, everything's red, or everything's green, and you have FOMO. And we had another service that we subscribed to. It's no longer around. It's called Baseline. And Baseline had all the company fundamental data. It had historical pricing data. But that service would only update once overnight. So during the day, you're not seeing all the flashing colors.
Yeah.
And I found that just keeps you calmer and more objective. And you're looking at the things that you should be looking at. I mean, we were looking at companies' balance sheets. We were looking at their margins. Are their margins improving? How are their earnings? What are the earnings expectations for the next quarter, the next year, the next 5 years? Those were the things for my job that I found, those were the things that are important. But when we turned on the minute by minute, second by second stock prices, you get distracted. And I think similarly for clients, it's easy to get distracted just by news headlines. I mean, things are so politically charged now. So half my client base says everything's great, and then the other half says the world's coming to an end. And the truth of the matter is that it's really going to be somewhere in between. Yeah, it's going to be in the middle, because it's fascinating. When I go to the pizzeria and they have they have CNN on one screen and they have Fox News on the other, and they're reporting the same news, and I'm sitting there eating my pizza and I'm cracking up because the headlines, the captions that they're flashing on the screen, I'm like, wow, this is the same news event. You'd never know, because one is positive, one's negative. And I think that clients need to take a step back from the noise. You need to do some planning. You need to look at what are your personal goals, what are your personal objectives. If you're planning for retirement, you're working, you're trying to figure out, what are my expenses going to be? What is my retirement nest egg look like? For most people, that's going to be their company 401k, or maybe they have an IRA account. And, then once you understand or set your plan, what do you want to do in retirement? Do you want to travel? Do you want to spend time with family? I mean, some of the many things that I've learned in hosting Inspired Money is that when people are on their deathbed and they're in hospice, nobody says, I wish I made more money. Right. Everybody's regrets as they reflect back on their life is, well, I should have repaired this relationship. I should have done the things on my bucket list that I never did. I should have traveled to Europe. I should have gone to Asia. I should have gone to different cities. I should have taken that trip across the US, road tripping to all the national parks that I always wanted to do, but I never did. It's those types of things. So I think it's important to, look at your values. What are the things you want to do? Because then you take your investments and you try to make sure that your investments are aligned with those things that you want to do.
It's interesting because you've talked a lot on your podcast about investing in yourself as a wealth strategy. And it's what I hear. Maybe I'm interpreting it, but what's a personal example where you choose skill building over a better investment?
Well, I think investing in yourself is, you're like your own stock. You can go invest in Apple and Nvidia, but you better invest in yourself too, especially today, because there are so many unknowns. We don't know what impact artificial intelligence is going to have on our career.
Yeah.
We don't know if a machine is going to replace us, or how soon a machine is going to replace us. And then as people's careers evolve around AI and how companies are integrating artificial intelligence, we have to figure out ways to, upskill, level up our skills in certain areas. How do we lean into our humanity? Because I think that what we're seeing already today is that AI can be a tremendous tool to help us with our productivity, but we have to understand how to use it. We have to be learning about it. We have to understand how to apply it well. But you have to have this sort of bird's eye view on how is my industry changing and how do I adapt, and so that I can see opportunities, because inevitably certain doors are going to be opening, others are going to be closing. And I think that investing in yourself is part of, staying adaptable and making sure that you don't become obsolete.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of your listeners are in some kind of life transition. And when someone looks at a big liquidity event, whether it's a business sale or an inheritance or real estate sale, what's the first conversation you have with them before you talk products?
Yeah, I'm rarely talking products, especially as a fee-only advisor, because I'm never compensated by commission. So
Sure.
I tend to be kind of product agnostic. I feel that being fee-only allows me to sit on the same side of the table as my client and say, all right, let's be objective and let's take a look at what is your plan, what are your challenges, and then what are the different vehicles that can help you to reach your goals. Sorry, the original question?
Really, what's the first conversation you have with them when they're looking at some kind of liquidity event? And I think you answered it, right?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. One is understanding, like, where are you going? Where do you want to go? Everybody's different and unique in that respect. I mean, I have clients who say, you know what, I've never been a really big spender, but I'm thinking that I do want to relocate to a different place. So I have clients who have moved to Hawaii, as an example. Mm-hmm. And they say, all right, I'm going to move from California to Hawaii, and I'm going to need some money to buy a new house, but I will sell my house in California. And those are just things that you plan around, right? It's like, okay, you're going to do that. What else are you going to need, for relocation once you're there, kind of getting settled into a new community? I have another client who is local here in New Jersey, where I am, and he and his wife, they love the outdoors. They love hiking. They love going to national parks. And just in the last 6 months, they had gone, I don't remember which national parks, but they had gone to, I think, Utah. They had gone out to California with some friends. And they said, you know what? We realized we went with another couple. They're a little bit older than us. And that couple physically were not able to go on as rigorous hikes as we're able to. So They came home and they said, you know what? We realized that maybe we should prioritize going to more national parks now while we're physically able. This couple, their kids have graduated from college. They're now working, so they don't have to worry about their kids' college tuition. But they're not quite at retirement age either, but they're both in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. So they feel like demand for what they do is very high. And they feel like their skills are going to be needed and transferable geographically. They say, people need nurses, people need medical professionals. So they feel like they have the, they have the benefit of being able to slow down a little bit earlier.
Right.
It's almost like taking a sabbatical. They're like, oh, maybe we can take a break. We could take a 6-month road trip. And so right now they've sold their home. They found like a smaller house that they can relocate to. And their plan is to buy an RV so that they can go road trip and go see parks and go hiking. And then, they may do that for 3 to 6 months, then come back and go back to work for a while. So I think, the idea that retirement, like this is not your father's or grandfather's retirement, even that's changing. Like, how do you define retirement? And I think that's also why inspired money, where money meets purpose, that's why it's important too, because no longer are people working their whole career at one company and collecting a pension and retiring at 65. Yeah. We're living longer. So therefore, we need more money to take care of ourselves in retirement. But then I think people tend to be working longer too, because you're healthier for longer and you need
They're
purpose.
enjoying it. So a lot of people are enjoying their work. It's
Correct.
interesting. I had a situation last year with clients who sold off a couple of businesses and a number of multifamily properties, and I helped them move the equity into a Delaware statutory trust options for cash flow. And the interesting thing, they did similarly by kind of a Sprinter van, and they've been driving around the country. They've also been traveling and spending time with their grandkids, but they're also very active in their community, and
Right.
they're very vibrant. And these are long-term property owners. And my question to you, kind of the success trap is that equity rich person, but time poor, right? And when you see that, what are the first 2 or 3 levers that you look at to turn their equity into freedom? What do you advise them?
Yeah, I think time's the great equalizer, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or you're collecting minimum wage. Your time is finite and your time is valuable. Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a tough one as an advisor, because I think that everybody, each individual, that's unique to them. It's hard to transform a workaholic. Like, once a workaholic, kind of always a workaholic, unless something drastic happens. Like, usually there's a health event or some motivation to say, hey, there's a wake-up call, I need to change. But I think many people who are planning for retirement, they know that it's a time of transition. And odds are, their daily, the daily agenda is going to look different than what it was when they were working a 9 to 5, or, many more hours than 9 to 5. But I think oftentimes, there is a little bit of an identity crisis when going through retirement and doing that planning, because for most of us, work becomes such an important community, right? And part of our self-identity. Like, this is what I do. And it becomes part of your identity and how you identify, and then all the people that you're in contact with. And if you stop cold turkey, suddenly people are having an identity crisis and saying, well, how am I going to spend my day? Sure, I can go see family. That's great. But then you go back home and you're like, well, then what? Which is why you see, as you mentioned, people getting, very involved in the community and volunteering at nonprofits. I mean, I think that it helps to really assess and take inventory of, what are causes that are important to you? How can you give back to your community? Because there's so many different ways to do that. But once you find that, you find a new community, you find more friends, you find new friends. And I think that adds so much value to one's life.
It's interesting. You've talked a lot about philanthropy and the art of giving back in some of your episodes. What do people miss? What's the biggest misconception people have about generosity and wealth?
Yeah, when it comes to giving, I think too many people say, I'll give when I make this much.
Right.
And I think it's important that it can be a practice that you can do right now. Because you don't just have to give money. You can give your time, talent, or treasure. There's so many different ways to give. And I think that the importance of giving is just tremendous. As I learned through my podcast, is that, the stress hormone cortisol cannot coexist when you're being generous. Like, if you hold the door for somebody, your cortisol is going to be reduced. Like, just holding the door will help to reduce some of the stress that you may be feeling.
Sure.
And I think that the health benefits of that are immeasurable, right? I think that if you're being generous, if you're mentoring somebody, if you're donating your money to the local food pantry, if you're volunteering and giving food away so that people are picking it up, it's like immeasurable, the benefit to you. Of course, there's a benefit to the people who are hungry and in need, but the people who are just there to pass out the food, or I had a neighbor who just passed away. He was so involved in the local food pantry. I went to his memorial service, and all the people were talking about how he came in after he retired, and he was checking all the expiration dates on the cans and, setting them aside. And then anything that was expired, he would move it. Anything that was good, he was cataloging on the shelves. And, the benefit to him in doing that, I think, it reduces stress. So if you don't want to be stressed, just be generous.
That's great. I'm going to keep that. So let's talk about your platform. I mean, you've built a presence across a lot of platforms, from YouTube, TikTok, X, Twitter, LinkedIn. What have you learned about tone? And
I laugh because I feel like I'm too old for this. But I think it all goes back to, how do you invest in yourself? I'm finding that there's a benefit to having, a personal brand and being online. And if people search you in Google, what are they going to find? Right. I want them to understand, I want them to find me and know what do I do? How do I help people? I want them to find the Inspired Money podcast on YouTube and watch different episodes so, they can learn about charitable giving. I've had incredible guests who are either at different charities or different advisors who help people with philanthropy. Just had a investing in art episode last week where I found it fascinating. I mean, I don't really have interest personally in investing in art, but I can appreciate art when I go to the museum. But for me, that was actually a glimpse into a world that is not my own. It was kind of like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, because I was talking to art advisors who are working with company executives, like CEOs of companies, and then they either exited or they sold the company. So their clients are purchasing artwork for $50 million. This is like a world that I can't even conceive. Sure. But it was just fun, just hearing the stories about, what are they looking for in art? What are the challenges of art? And then even understanding, how does AI come into play to help with authentication, right? Trying to identify fraud. Wherever there's money, there's going to be fraud. So in the art world, you're going to have forgeries, or you're going to have artwork that had been restored or repaired. And, you really need experts who they have the eye to identify that. And then they also have AI tools to identify those things too.
I love that your show does not only talk about finance. You have this art, this recent show. I've done the same on mine, because finance, it's all the sandbox. And we're all running around in it, but in that sandbox, there are many other people and many other things to do. So I love it. So do you have a hobby? I mean, what are you sort of irrationally passionate about?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I do. My hobby is playing Hawaiian music. I play Hawaiian style guitar. I play the ukulele, or the ukulele.
Really?
Yeah, my wife was born and raised in Hawaii. I'm actually from the East Coast, but people tell me, they say, "Oh, you're much more laid back than an East Coaster. I would have thought that you were from Hawaii or California." I don't know how to read into that, but through my wife, I fell in love with Hawaiian music, which is it's folk music. It's a lot of acoustic music. It's a lot of acoustic guitar songs that talk about the land. It's music of an indigenous people. So This is like a Hawaiian legend and lore, and talking about the beauty of the mountains and the ocean. It's very, I guess, nature centric. But yeah, so years ago, I just fell in love with the music. It's a very calm, relaxing music. So I played like punk hardcore music when I was in college. And then when I graduated, I was like, I think none of my neighbors want to hear like, electric guitar, thrash metal. So I started playing acoustic, and just through visiting my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law in Hawaii, fell in love with the music. Right. And it's a style of music that, the Hawaiian people, it's kind of like the Native Americans here in the US. They lost their land. They lost a lot of their culture. So the Hawaiian style of guitar, there was a period where that almost went extinct, along with hula and the Hawaiian language. Hawaiian language was actually outlawed from schools for a period. Okay. So there's like a generation where
same in the native peoples here, right?
Yeah, grandparents could speak Hawaiian, but then the parents were not allowed to speak Hawaiian. And then now there are immersion schools, so the kids are learning Hawaiian again. So what I found was, as I fell in love with the style of music, I would just go, to like performances when I go over there, or some guys go on tour all over the mainland. And actually, first concert I went to was in Boston, and absolutely fell in love with the music, the storytelling. It's just such a rich culture and style that I wanted to learn. So when I talk to these different artists, they'd say, "Oh yeah, when you come out to Hawaii, come over to my house. I'll give you a lesson." And what I found is like, well, right, if I love the blues, Eric Clapton's not going to invite me to his house. So it was like this incredible opportunity to, sit down with like masters of the style. And being on the East Coast, there are only a handful of us who play Hawaiian music. So
right,
I used to have like the worst stage fright. My hands would shake. I'd get a stomach ache. I could only play like in my living room. But over 20 years, because there aren't too many of us playing music, Hawaiian music here, I'd have these crazy adventures where people would say, they'd invite me and say, "Hey, I'm getting married. Will you play at my wedding?"
Oh,
and I just kind of adopted this philosophy that fun is always on the other side of yes. I just say yes. If I'm invited, I say yes, even though like I had this reaction fight or flight mode, and I was like, I just want to go back to my living room. I don't want to go outside. But I'd say yes, and found myself over the years playing some pretty crazy venues. I mean, I've played for celebrities. I've played, in front of a sold out crowd in New York City of like 400 people, because I have friends who are professional musicians from Hawaii who would come through and they'd ask me, "Do you want to open up for us?" And I'd say yes.
That's great.
So crazy. Yeah. So if you talk about passion, yeah, I've made friends with like people that I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to make friends with. Definitely, I think don't deserve to perform with, but I've had opportunities performing with Grammy award-winning musicians. And, I just I try my best to do my little part of trying to perpetuate the style of music. And, being here on the East Coast, I think I have a unique opportunity to do that.
So what has it taught you about money?
Oh, gosh. I've got glimpses into what it's like being a professional musician, which is a very difficult life. Mm-hmm. I've met enough professional musicians to know that when you're on the road, that's not an easy life. And, I've met both musicians who have done it on a large scale where they're playing very large venues, and that's a different world. But even then, you're doing it at the expense of, having a good, stable family life. I mean, so many professional musicians, it's hard for them to stay married. and then there's temptation of like drugs and alcohol and all kinds of problems because you're in a different city every night. It's not an easy life.
Yeah.
But then even musicians who do it on a smaller scale, which is even tougher because you're driving your own tour van, your own tour bus, you're not jet setting and getting like picked up by a limo.
Right.
It's all hard. But George Kahumoku Jr., who lived on Maui, he's now based in California. He's a 5-time Grammy Award winning Hawaiian slacky guitarist. And I've promoted shows here in my hometown in New Jersey. He's actually coming February 28th again. This is like his 8th time in my town, and he brings different artists. It's going to be great. I witnessed that, the musician life is tough, especially because you're not making as much money on CDs anymore, because now you have streaming services and you're getting paid like 0.003 cents per stream. Whereas before you sold a CD and it was a whole album. Now it's like people are buying, okay, let me just buy this one track. And they're getting paid like fractions of what they used to. So what do they need to do? They have to tour live, because if they're performing, if you're doing a concert, at least you're getting paid for the performance.
Sure.
My friend George is such an entrepreneur. Not only does he perform like all over the country, but he's smart. He does raffles during intermission. And when he's doing the raffles, he's actually collecting emails and zip codes so that whenever he goes on tour, he can do email blasts. He's like, oh, I'm going to be in Connecticut. I'm going to target this area, send out emails. And then he even does
smart.
What's it called? It's called shoot, I can't remember, but like
tracking.
Yes. Yeah. He does remarketing so that there's like a pixel on his website. So if somebody gets the email, they go to his website, then he can there's a cookie and he knows who went, and he can target people even more. Musicians, I think he's the only musician who I've met who does it so well. I mean, he has a massive database of audience members.
So let me ask you a couple questions about you. What does a great week look like at home?
What does a great week look like?
Yeah, non-negotiables, right? Routines or rituals?
I have 3 teenagers at home. So we're still in the thick of parenting and child raising. And I have my daughter who's a senior in high school. So she's going to be graduating soon. And because of that, trying to look for baby pictures and stuff that we can put into her yearbook and have a congratulatory message. So I'm kind of been a period of reflection and looking at photos when they were young and saying, oh, I miss those days, but we enjoy every stage. Right. So I think for me, it's, it's just going to my kids' activities right now. It's going to a fencing meet and watching my kids fence and compete, and, have had a lot of fun, watching my daughter and son win the Morris County fencing tournament championship. And I think it's just spending time with family.
Like every other family across the country, right?
Yeah. I think that's what's important, right? It's what matters. I think your friends, your family, your connections, and whatever community. So, whether that's going to church or going to the community food bank or whatever it may be, volunteering in local government, whatever you do, I think, you try to make a positive impact. And I think that's the goal. So a great week for me is going to watch my kids do sports, maybe run track. And I'm definitely in a sandwich generation too, because I had the luxury of working with both my parents and my brother. So family's tight, and we're in the sandwich generation. I'm trying to deal with my parents health issues, and then dividing the day between running off to like kids sporting events and trying to just to juggle and balance.
So I want to ask two questions at the same time. If you had to remove one financial stressor from your family, what would it be? And at the same time, when you're dealing with two generations, there's all kinds of financial stuff that happens in between. How do you advise someone to balance that?
Well, easy questions to answer. College tuition, if I could remove that, would like change my mood and outlook. To me, I've said for years since my kids were babies, I'm like, that is like the specter hiding in the shadows that I'm afraid of. And now that, my oldest is, she has applied to colleges and is still waiting to hear back and make some decisions on where she's going to be next year. Part of that process is like, who's giving her merit scholarship? So I don't know how that's all going to play out. I'm hoping that she'll land and select a school where not only she finds a great program that will put her on the best footing for her future, but I hope that, that they're giving her some monetary incentives too, which
someone else will help pay for it.
Yeah, which will make me a little happier because, the more scholarship she gets, the more I can put toward my retirement. So we'll see how that plays out. I think the other lesson.
Quick answer about the parents, right?
The other lesson with the parents is it's basic things. It's planning. It's like, do they have their health directive in place? What do they want? And we're just trying to spend as much time together and to support them as best we can. One lesson I mentioned that my neighbor just passed away recently. Things as simple as knowing your parents' password to their cell phone. That those can be big things.
Yeah, exactly.
No one wants to talk about death, but I think that, proper planning, it's just like retirement planning. You need to sit down with your parents and sort of identify like, what are your assets? What are your liabilities? Are things organized? And, if you have the benefit of having parents who are going to live a long time, but over time, they're not going to be the same as they were when they were 60 or 70, if they're 80 or 90. Correct. So it's like, what things do you need to take over for them? Yeah. At some point, it's like, do you need to take care of bill paying for them? Do you need to, figure out where are they going to live if they can't manage being in a 2-story house anymore? So I think just planning.
I understand that and get it completely. I dealt with it with my own mom, and the fact that I was able to really sort of be that person when it came to the health directive, because she came out of the medical field, we had a conversation about it, and it's really important that people do that. All right. Very important. I have 5. I think I have 5. Maybe we'll get to 5, but I got really quick, like 20-second answers.
Yep. I'll do my best.
One financial hot take you're tired of hearing in the media.
One financial hot take. That everything's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I think that we hear that in the media, but no one believes it because there's a big difference between Wall Street and Main Street.
Right. A number you checked recently that most people ignore. Credit spreads, jobless claims, the yield curve. What is it?
Well, I'm watching very closely the Fed, but I think for this year, tax refunds are going to be much higher than what people might be expecting.
Right.
The average tax refund was like $2,900 last tax season, and I think that this year it might be around $4,000. So people may be getting a higher tax refund and have more money to spend.
Best money habit under 5 minutes a day that people should be doing or keeping track of?
Just tracking where your money is going and making sure that you don't have subscriptions, recurring expenses that if you don't need it, you should cancel it.
Yeah. Most underrated risk people forget to plan for. We've probably talked about this, but what is it in your eyes?
Underrated risk. Is it something that you can plan for?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that keeps me up at night is the amount of government spending. I mean, it's just it's reached levels that are hard to wrap one's head around. I mean, it started with the pandemic. Like the government had to spend to keep the economy going, but since 2020, there really has been very little dialing back, and it's unsustainable. I think that that's a problem. How does one plan for that? It's really tough to say. I mean, be diversified, have like an emergency fund, but we'll see how it plays out.
All right, 2 more. If you could ban one investing behavior for retail investors forever, what would it be?
Just making emotional decisions. I think that when it comes to investing, you want to have a process. And when your decisions are based on emotion, that's when you make mistakes. That's when you sell low, buy high.
I agree.
And whether you have a plan or you have a process, you need something to keep you honest.
I'm a big cartoon person and love animated films. My friends, if they have kids and they want to go see the latest animated film and the parents don't want to go, they'll usually say, call Uncle Herb, he'll take you. If you had to pick a cartoon animated character that best identifies who you are, who is it?
Oh, gosh. I don't know who I identify with. But I love South Park. I love South Park and The Simpsons. Really, The Simpsons is my generation. So I'll say The Simpsons.
Is there a character that's you?
Well, I've become Homer Simpson since I'm the father of like 3 kids. I just eat fewer donuts and I don't work at a nuclear power plant.
Exactly. Hey, this has really been fun. And I was a little nervous, to be honest, having you on because your shows are so diverse. You've got such a broad range. And I felt really excited to have you on the show. So, folks, that's a wrap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more raw, real talk in the sandbox. Thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed having you on.
Thanks, Herb. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.